welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into GLP-1 receptor agonists.
Yeah, you might have heard about them,
You're getting,
especially with all the buzz around weight loss.
yeah, we've gathered some sources here for our deep dive today.
Oh.
We have some scientific papers, medical articles.
Clinical trial data.
Yeah, clinical trial data.
A lot to unpack.
Yeah, and we're really hoping to give everybody a good overview of what GLP-1 receptor agonists are.
Absolutely.
The science behind how they work, some of the potential benefits.
Potential drawbacks.
Yeah, potential drawbacks. We'll definitely talk about those as well.
Looking at it from all angles.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So to get started, for those who are maybe unfamiliar,
Right.
can you give us a little bit of a GLP-1 receptor agonists 101?
Yeah, so GLP-1, it's a naturally occurring hormone. It's an incretin. And basically your gut releases it after you eat.
Okay.
And it helps regulate blood sugar by stimulating insulin release.
Okay, so it's like amplifying a signal that your body's already sending.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because GLP-1 also plays a role in appetite regulation, these agonists can also lead to feelings of fullness and reduced cravings.
Okay, it's starting to see how this all ties into weight loss.
Right.
But let's break it down even further. How do these agonists actually work?
Sure. So they have multiple targets.
Okay.
In your pancreas, they boost insulin production, and they actually suppress glucagon, which is another hormone that raises blood sugar.
Okay.
They also slow down gastric emptying in your gut,
Okay.
so you feel fuller for longer.
Makes sense.
And some emerging research suggests that they might even act on appetite centers in the brain.
Wow, so it's like a triple whammy almost.
Yeah, a multi-targeted approach.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Now, our research also indicated that some GLP-1 agonists can work a little differently.
Right.
Like they have certain preferences for pathways or whatever.
Yeah, you're talking about biased agonism.
Okay.
So think about it like this. You have different keys that unlock the same door, but each key might also activate like a different mechanism within that lock, leading to slightly different outcomes.
Interesting.
So it's kind of like that with these agonists. Some might be better at stimulating that insulin release, while others might be more effective at slowing down gastric emptying.
Okay, so it's almost like some are master keys and some are more specialized for a specific task.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and like a good example is the research on GP44 and GP12. These are two different GLP-1 receptor agonists, and they interact with those receptors in like subtly different ways.
Okay.
And that might explain why we see varying effectiveness and potentially different side effect profiles.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so understanding these subtle differences is really crucial for choosing the right key, so to speak, for each person.
Yeah, personalized medicine. That's the future, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, so we've talked about weight loss and diabetes, but our research also pointed to some other potential benefits.
Of GLP-1 agonists, can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Yeah, so beyond their roles in diabetes and weight loss, research indicates that they might improve cardiovascular health,
Okay.
potentially reducing the risk of heart attack and stroke.
Wow.
There's also evidence suggesting positive effects on bone strength and cholesterol levels.
Okay, so it's almost like the more we learn about these, the more we realize they could be beneficial for
Yeah, it's a growing list.
a lot of different things.
Absolutely.
Very interesting. Okay, so that's all very exciting.
Yeah.
But before we get too carried away, we also need to talk about potential drawbacks.
Of course.
Right, because nothing's perfect.
Nothing's a magic bullet.
Right, exactly.
So while they show great promise, they're not without their downsides.
Okay.
Nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea are some common side effects, especially early on in treatment.
Okay.
But our research suggests that these are usually mild,
Okay.
and they tend to subside over time.
That's good to know.
But what about cost? Because I know that can be
Right.
a big barrier for people.
Right.
And also, are there any like potential long-term risks that we should be thinking about?
Yeah, so you're right. Cost can be a significant barrier.
Yeah.
Some of these newer agonists can be quite expensive, and that's something we need to address as a society
Yeah.
to make sure these treatments are accessible to everyone.
Mhm.
As for the long-term risks, more research is needed to fully understand the picture.
Okay.
One area of concern is a possible link to pancreatitis,
Okay.
but the evidence is still limited,
Okay.
and the incidence seems to be rare.
Okay.
But it really highlights the importance of ongoing research
Absolutely.
and open communication with healthcare providers.
Yeah, if you're considering taking something like this, definitely talk to your doctor.
Absolutely.
One other thing that came up in our research was something called berberine,
Right.
which is often touted as like a natural alternative
Yeah.
to GLP-1 agonists.
It's a compound found in plants like barberry. Oh.
And it has a long history of use in traditional medicine, particularly in China.
Okay.
It's showing some promise for weight loss and blood sugar control,
Okay.
but more research is needed to compare its effectiveness to the established GLP-1 agonists
Yeah.
and also to understand its long-term safety profile.
Yeah. So it's interesting, and there might be something there,
Right.
but we need more.
More research.
Research, exactly.
Yeah. It's always best to consult with a healthcare professional before starting any new supplement or making changes to your treatment plan.
Absolutely, especially when it comes to managing,
Right.
complex conditions like diabetes.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Well, we've covered a lot of ground here already.
We have.
We talked about what GLP-1 agonists are,
How they work.
how they work, some of the potential benefits, some of the potential drawbacks.
A good overview.
Yeah. But, in part 2 of our deep dive, we want to actually dive into some specific drugs.
Yes. Let's get into the specifics and, talk about, those exciting developments that you mentioned earlier.
Absolutely.
But for now, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back soon with part 2 of our deep dive into the world of GLP-1 receptor agonists.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of GLP-1 receptor agonists.
Yeah.
We talked about the science behind it.
Mm.
Now let's zoom in on some of the specific drugs that are really making waves in this field.
Yes, I'm excited to talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's start with one that seems to be everywhere these days, semaglutide.
Ah, yes, semaglutide. It's marketed under names like Ozempic and Wegovy.
Yeah.
And what's really fascinating is how it's proving effective for both type 2 diabetes and weight management.
Yeah, and our research mentioned that it's a once-weekly injection,
Right.
which seems pretty convenient.
Convenience is a big plus, but what really sets semaglutide apart is the results.
Okay.
In clinical trials, people taking semaglutide lost significantly more weight than those on a placebo. We're talking weight loss often exceeding 10% of their body weight, which is pretty substantial.
Wow. Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah.
And our research also mentioned that it might have benefits beyond just weight loss.
You're right. Studies suggest that semaglutide can also improve cardiovascular risk factors.
Okay.
So we're seeing improvements in blood pressure and cholesterol levels, which suggests a potential protective effect against heart disease.
Okay, so it's not just about, fitting into smaller genes. It's also potentially reducing the risk of some serious health problems.
Exactly. And that's why there's so much excitement surrounding semaglutide.
Yeah.
However, it is important to remember that no medication is without potential side effects.
Right, of course.
Nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea are commonly reported, especially when people first start the treatment.
Okay.
So
So this is a good point. It's all about weighing the potential benefits against the risks.
always, and remember, it's crucial to have open and honest conversations with your doctor.
Yes.
They can help determine if semaglutide or any GLP-1 agonist is right for you.
Absolutely. All right, so we've talked about semaglutide, which seems to be
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
hot topic.
the hot topic, the new
Yeah.
kid on the block.
The new kid on the block.
But our research also highlighted liraglutide,
Yes.
which is another GLP-1 agonist that's been around a bit longer.
Liraglutide, marketed as Saxenda for weight loss and Victoza for type 2 diabetes, has a proven track record.
Okay.
And like semaglutide, it's been shown to lead to significant weight loss
Okay.
and improved blood sugar control.
Now, what really stood out to me in the research was the potential link between liraglutide and a reduced risk of major adverse cardiovascular events like heart attack and stroke.
That's a key finding from the LEADER trial, a landmark study that followed individuals with type 2 diabetes
Okay.
who also had established cardiovascular disease.
Okay.
And the results were quite groundbreaking. They suggested that liraglutide might offer protection against those heart problems in addition to its benefits for diabetes management.
Yeah, that's huge, especially considering that, type 2 diabetes often, is associated with an increased risk of cardiovascular problems.
Right. It highlights the potential of these drugs to address not just individual symptoms, but to really improve overall metabolic health in a much broader way.
Yeah, okay, so we've got semaglutide, we've got liraglutide,
Right.
both showing promising results, but our research mentioned that there are other
Oh, yeah.
GLP-1 agonists on the market too.
There are, each with its own unique profile and potential advantages.
Yeah.
For instance, there's exenatide, which is available as both a twice daily and a once weekly injection.
Okay.
And then there's dulaglutide, another once weekly option.
Okay, it seems like there's this, growing team of GLP-1 agonists out there.
Yeah.
Each with their own strengths
Absolutely.
and potential applications.
Exactly. And the research and development in this field is moving at an incredible pace.
Yeah.
We can expect to see even more players joining the team as scientists continue to explore new and improved GLP-1 receptor agonists.
Okay, so speaking of, future developments, one thing that really caught my eye was this idea of combination therapies.
Yes.
You mentioned earlier the GLP-1 GIP glucagon triagonists.
Yes. Combining different hormones that act on multiple metabolic pathways is a really hot area of research.
Okay.
The goal is to create a synergistic effect, achieving even greater efficacy and potentially tackling those more complex metabolic conditions.
So it's almost like instead of just focusing on one aspect of the metabolic system,
Right.
it's like a multi-pronged attack on the whole system.
I have a very apt analogy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about addressing that complex interplay of hormones and metabolic pathways in a more comprehensive and personalized way.
Yeah, that sounds incredibly promising. And what about the development of oral formulations of GLP-1 agonists?
Yes.
Because I know right now a lot of them are injections.
Right.
But our research said that, scientists are working on developing with like pill form.
You're absolutely right. Imagine the convenience and increased adherence to treatment if taking these medications was as simple as swallowing a pill.
Yeah, I, for one, would much rather take a pill than an injection.
Right.
So it seems like, these advancements could really revolutionize how we manage, metabolic disorders.
It's all about making these